My parents bought a vacation home and posted, "Nothing like creating memories with the ones who matter." I wasn't in a single photo. I didn't make a scene. A month later they asked me to help furnish it. I said, "You made your home. Furnish it with them." By evening my phone was exploding with rage. When my parents posted that caption under a carousel of sun-drenched family photos at their new lakeside vacation home, I was sitting in my apartment staring at the screen, wondering how a person could feel so present and so invisible at the same time. Every photo looked like it belonged in a brochure. Glowing golden hours, wine glasses clinking, someone always laughing. There were photos of my brother helping our dad set up the grill, my sister lying in a hammock with her kids, my mom wrapped in a blanket on the deck watching the sunset. Even the family dog got more camera time than I did. Because I wasn't in any of them. Not one. And yet I paid for 40% of that house. Not a single mention in the caption. Not a thank you. Not even a tag. Just nothing like creating memories with the ones who matter. I had been the one who found the property online when my parents were casually browsing and thought the idea of a vacation home sounded fun. I was the one who called the realtor, arranged the virtual tour, talked them through the loan pre-approval process. I even flew out there on my own dime to walk through it in person and check for issues. The septic was a mess. There was mold in the guest bathroom. The cellars were shady and almost backed out twice. If I hadn't stepped in, called in favors, pushed things forward, fronted my portion early, they would have lost it. My parents contributed 30%. The rest was split between my brother and sister, and let me be clear, they wired the money over after everything had already been arranged. They didn't attend one inspection, one planning call, one legal back and forth. It was like watching people arrive at a dinner party after you've already cooked everything, then listening to them argue about who gets to blow out the candles. So I stayed quiet. Even after the closing. Even after I heard from my aunt that my sister had been telling people our parents had bought it for us kids. I kept my mouth shut. I let them have their little version of the truth. But when that post went up, something shifted. Not just because they'd left me out of the photos, but because they chose that caption. It wasn't just a trip. It was a statement. 2 weeks later my dad texted like nothing had happened. "Hey, we're heading back up this weekend. Can you help with the furnishing stuff? IKEA trip maybe, and we want to hit a couple higher-end places." It took me a few hours to reply. I thought about it. Thought about how I had mapped out the kitchen layout myself. How I had spent 3 nights arguing with the contractor about the flooring. How I had been treated like a co-owner when they needed something. But now that the fun part was here, I was suddenly a ghost. So I replied, "You made your home. Furnish it with them." That's all I said. By nightfall the rage began. Missed calls. Long texts. A passive-aggressive group message my mom sent that said, "It's really hurtful when people turn their backs on family for no reason." My brother sent me a thumbs-down emoji and didn't follow up. My sister accused me of being manipulative. My dad just wrote, "Wow. Very disappointing." I didn't respond. But I took screenshots. Everyone. It's funny how people show you exactly who they are the moment you stop serving them. I had spent months making that house a reality. They'd spent days turning it into a place I didn't exist. And they had no idea what was coming next. After I ignored the messages, the group chat went dead. Like someone had shut the lights off in a room full of shouting people. But I knew that silence too well. It wasn't retreat. It was strategy. I could already imagine the conversations happening behind the scenes. Someone would suggest, "Just give her space." Another would say, "She's always been dramatic." And my mom would definitely bring up how I hold things in too long. A few days later she sent me a Pinterest board. No message, just a link titled "Lakeside Vibes for Fall." It was full of navy and cream color palettes, porch lanterns, throw blankets folded over rattan chairs. Like nothing had happened. Like I'd never been erased. That was the tone they always went for when guilt didn't work. Pretend it didn't happen and hope I'd fall back into place. I didn't open it. My brother was less subtle. He called me while I was working, didn't leave a voicemail. Then texted, "Whatever this is, get over it. You're blowing it up." That's how he handled most things. Put the blame in your lap and call it a solution. A few more days passed and then I saw it. My sister posted a story of her and my brother struggling to haul a boxed sofa onto the porch. The caption said, "No Laura this time, so I guess we're doing it the hard way." There was no tag. No wink. Just a flat shot and a loaded sentence. Like they were proud to be proving something. They kept furnishing it. Badly. I watched as they made mistake after mistake. An outdoor love seat that was meant for indoors. A wall-mounted TV hung so low it looked like a fireplace screen. Fake plants in every room because no one wanted to drive back often enough to water anything. Then the problems started. The plumbing backed up after one of the kids flushed a toy down the guest toilet. There was a leak in the laundry room ceiling. They missed a payment on the property tax estimate because no one had set up the alerts. The neighbor left a typed note on their door about parking too close to his driveway. He threatened to call the county next time. And through all of that, they didn't call me. Not at first. Instead, I heard about it from my cousin Jonah, who texted me after seeing my dad at a birthday party. He said my name came up. I braced myself. Apparently, my dad had said I was being cold lately, that I had a thing about control, and that I was making a big deal out of a couple $1,000s. I paid over $200,000 for that house. I found it, protected it from falling through 3 times and pushed it across the finish line. But now I was being reduced to someone who was acting like she owned it. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to be the quiet helper anymore. I went into the shared Google Drive we had used for the entire process. I pulled every file I had uploaded, contractor estimates, invoices I'd paid up front, bank transfers, inspection notes, appliance receipts. Everything with my name on it came down. The only document I left was a single PDF, the ownership agreement with my 40% clearly outlined and initialed by all of us. I didn't say a word. I just let them notice it. 2 days later my sister called. She didn't waste time. Told me they were short on cash. Said they maxed out their cards on the renovations and my brother had taken out a personal loan. The property tax notice caught them off guard, and they were trying to avoid falling behind before the winter season. She asked if I could help carry it just until spring. I said no. Not angrily. Not emotionally. Just no. There was a long pause before she hung up. Later that night my mom left a voicemail. She said I was punishing the family. That I was choosing money over love. My brother posted something vague about selfish people hiding behind boundaries. My dad forwarded me an article about how siblings lose touch over pride. And just like that I became the villain. But none of them saw what was coming. Not yet. After I told my sister no, everything changed. The fake concern stopped. The check-ins vanished. The group chat stayed quiet. No more emojis. No more quick question messages. It was like I'd been voted off an island I helped build. My brother unfollowed me on Instagram, then blocked me 2 days later. My mom went silent. My dad didn't even bother with the guilt trip this time. Just vanished altogether. That would have been fine, except suddenly I started getting vague texts from extended family. Hope everything's alright. Saw your sister the other day. She said you've been going through something? Your mom mentioned the vacation house. Anything you want to talk about? Right. I knew what that meant. The rewrites had begun. I said nothing. Let them guess. Let them build their stories. Then I got a call from my cousin Heather. She doesn't usually get involved in family drama, but she called to ask if it was true that I was refusing to help maintain the house. I just laughed. She said she overheard my dad at a family barbecue, explaining to someone that Laura decided the house didn't matter to her anymore, and that she's been acting distant since we all tried to include her. He actually used the word include. 40%. I paid 40%. I was the reason they even had that house. But now, according to the version they were selling, I was the cold, withholding one. The sibling who took a step back out of nowhere. The one choosing money over family. And just like that, I became a cautionary tale at every family get-together. Meanwhile, things started falling apart. Quietly at first. The repairs they'd ignored started stacking up. The plumbing leak returned. They tried to patch it themselves and ended up with mold in the laundry closet. My brother accidentally left the back door unlatched and a raccoon got in, ruined one of the new rugs and chewed through the pantry cabinet. The property taxes were higher than expected because they'd underestimated the area's valuation increase. And when winter rolled in early, they realized they hadn't winterized the pipes properly. It was a mess. A very expensive one. And still no apology. What made it worse was how stubborn they got about it. They started doubling down. My sister posted this long dramatic caption on Facebook about how family is about who shows up, not who signs checks, which wasn't even subtle. I had to stop looking at their posts entirely. Everyone felt like a public slap. Thanksgiving was the final confirmation. They hosted it at the vacation house, even though they were clearly struggling. My parents invited extended family. Photos went up that night. Plates of food, pumpkin candles, firewood stacked by the hearth. My place at the table was never mentioned. They had replaced me with aesthetic. Then 3 days later my brother texted me. Hey, we need to talk about the property tax. It's due and no one else can cover it right now. No greeting. No explanation. No ownership. Just a problem tossed in my lap. I replied, I already paid my share. It's in the agreement. He left me on read. Later that night my sister sent me one of her long texts. It wasn't a request. It was a performance. She talked about how hard the last few months had been. How they were trying to make things work. How she believed I never meant to hurt anyone and how maybe I could help just this once, because they would have done the same for me. That was when I understood something I probably should have realized earlier. They didn't feel guilty. Not really. They just missed what I gave them. And they were starting to realize I wasn't coming back. After my sister's long, carefully worded text about how they were just trying their best, I didn't reply. I didn't even open it all the way. Just let the preview sit there on my lock screen. You used to care more than this. I stared at it for a minute, then let the screen go black. They wanted me to feel guilty. They needed that version of me, the one who'd drop everything to fix their mess and fund their peace. That version of me didn't exist anymore. A week later I got a certified letter. Not from the county. Not from the bank. From a lawyer. My dad's apparently. It was a request for a temporary reassessment of the ownership agreement based on what they called my non-participation in property management and shared maintenance. It was surreal. They were trying to legally reduce my stake in the house I found, financed, and built with them, because I didn't want to play their game anymore. I didn't call. I didn't yell. I forwarded it to my attorney and went about my day. 3 days later, their lawyer had dropped everything after reviewing the original agreement. It was airtight. Ironically, I'd made it airtight, thinking it would protect us. But the fact that they even tried. That was the part one couldn't shake. This wasn't about family anymore. This was about power. And they thought I'd be too ashamed or too sentimental to push back. They were wrong. Then out of nowhere I got a message on LinkedIn. From a woman I'd never heard of. Someone who worked in marketing, apparently a friend of my sister's. She apologized for the weird way of reaching out, said she felt uncomfortable staying silent. She'd overheard my sister at a wine night telling people I had mental health issues, that I was trying to punish our parents because she's always needed to feel in control. She said they were worried I might sell my share to someone random, and that I'd ruin the family's future. The woman ended her message with, "I don't know you, but you seem nothing like the way she described you. Just thought you should know." I didn't reply. But I read it 3 times. I logged off LinkedIn. Deleted the app. Then pulled up my savings spreadsheet. They knew I had money. They always did. That's why they weren't afraid to make enemies with me, because deep down they were sure they'd need me again. And right on cue it happened. The refinance attempt. I got a call from the bank asking for a signature to move forward on a loan for the vacation property. A loan I never applied for. My name was on the deed and they'd tried to move forward without me. The loan officer had flagged the ownership structure because the paperwork didn't match their claim of full control. If I hadn't added extra language during the purchase, requiring joint consent on any financial moves, it would have gone through. I had never felt more exhausted and more clear-headed at the same time. They weren't just entitled. They were reckless. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront them. I updated my access restrictions, pulled the last shared documents from the cloud, and submitted a notice to the county registrar reinforcing my share of ownership and blocking any future refinance attempts without written consent. Then I waited. Winter hit harder than expected that year. A storm knocked out power for 3 days. The pipes in the guest bathroom burst. Insurance covered some of it, but not all. The floors buckled, the drywall warped, and the furnace, already limping, gave out completely. That's when the text started again. First from my sister. "Are you still refusing to help? Seriously?" Then from my dad. "Laura, you have the means. You're choosing to let your family struggle." Then my mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail and I still haven't listened to it. I started getting screenshots from a cousin showing group chat messages they'd been posting about me. My sister said I was spiteful. My brother called me a ghost with a checkbook. My mom told someone that I used to be kind. That night I called my lawyer and asked what it would take to sell my share. He said it was possible. Tricky but doable. He asked if I really wanted to go through with it. I told him I hadn't decided yet. But I had. They thought I'd never walk away. But I already had. They just hadn't noticed yet. After the refinance failed and winter tore through the house like it was settling a score, the silence from me must have started to feel louder to them. I didn't respond to their messages, their guilt-heavy texts, or the carefully curated Facebook captions that read like indirect letters to me. I just let them talk to the space where I used to be. My phone stayed full of unread messages, but I kept reading other things instead. Emails from my lawyer, offers from investors, spreadsheets. I had started the process of valuing my share of the house. Quietly. No announcement. No dramatic reveal. Just steps being taken in a direction they never thought I'd go. And then things started to collapse faster than I expected. My brother got laid off. A full restructure. No warning. One day he was posting work selfies from his car. The next day he was online venting about corporate betrayal and new beginnings. I knew he didn't have a cushion. He was always the kind to stretch every dollar and call it living free. A week later, my cousin texted me that my sister's husband was in the hospital again. Something with his heart. The bills had already been steep the first time. Now they were talking about refinancing their own home just to stay afloat. As for my parents, I heard through someone else that they'd quietly started dipping into what was left of their retirement savings. That temporary withdrawal they made to invest in the vacation house? It was gone. The house wasn't appreciating. No one wanted to rent it during off-season. And after the pipe burst, they didn't even have enough left to replace the furnace without taking out a loan. And through all of it, not once did anyone apologize. Not directly. Not even close. They kept their pride and ate their consequences. Instead of accountability, they chose blame. I started seeing vague jabs online. My sister posted something like, "It's always the people closest to you who watch you struggle and say nothing." A few days later, my brother shared a quote about people who only care when it benefits them. My mom's version was quieter. She called relatives and cried, said she didn't understand what I'd become. But they were careful never to say it to me. The truth was, I hadn't become anything. I just stopped helping people who thought I owed them more than I owed myself. Then out of nowhere, a woman messaged me on LinkedIn. Said she didn't want to get involved but thought I should know that my sister had been talking about me at a birthday party. Told people I was unstable, controlling, and had ruined what could have been a beautiful thing. She even claimed I'd planned to cut them off all along. I thanked the woman and logged off. That same week I got a call from the bank. Someone, my parents, had tried again to use the house for financial leverage. They didn't even tell me. The only reason the process stopped was because of the legal block I'd already put in place. And that's when I knew they were desperate. That house wasn't a dream anymore. It was dragging them down, and the only person who could throw them a rope was me. But they'd burned every bridge between us and left the ashes in full view. That Friday my lawyer emailed me 3 names buyers. All real. All interested. One of them offered full cash above the estimated share value, just to close before the new year. I didn't accept. But I didn't decline either. The next morning I woke up to 5 missed calls from my mom. I thought maybe someone had died. Then the knock came. My parents were at my door. I hadn't seen them in nearly a year. My mom held a small box of pastries from the cafe near my old office. My dad looked like he hadn't slept much. They didn't ask to come in. They just stood in the hallway like they didn't know what they were doing there. I waited. Finally my mom said, "We went to someone." I asked, "What does that mean?" "A monk," she said. "Someone your aunt recommended." He asked us what had gone wrong, and when we told him, he said, "This isn't a coincidence." He said when someone gives from their heart and gets shut out, it creates debt. That debt invites misfortune. My dad nodded. We didn't believe it at first. But everything's been falling apart since you stopped talking to us. They weren't there to argue anymore. They were there to surrender. He said we have to make it right. That we have to ask for your forgiveness or things won't change. That the energy has to be cleared. I looked at them and didn't feel much of anything at first. Not anger. Not relief. Just disbelief that it took this much for them to see what they'd done. Asked why now. My dad looked at the floor. Because we don't know what else to do. I didn't let them in. We talked in the hallway. They apologized. My mom cried. My dad said he was sorry for trying to turn the rest of the family against me. That they should have acknowledged what I gave. What I carried. What I built for them. And after all of that, I forgave them. But I still didn't step back in. They thought the forgiveness meant everything was fixed. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. Not anymore. After they left my apartment that night, the hallway smelled like cold air and bakery sugar, and I stood there with the pastries still in my hand, not sure whether to laugh or throw them out. There was no satisfaction in their apology. No sense of justice. Just 2 people who had run out of ways to keep pretending they were the good guys. They went to a monk. That part still echoes in my mind sometimes. Not a therapist. Not a family mediator. A monk. Because when nothing else worked, when manipulation, guilt, and legal threats all failed, they turned to something spiritual. Not out of enlightenment. Out of desperation. The monk told them they had created a debt. That asking for forgiveness was the only way to stop the collapse. That misfortune had attached itself to them because they'd wronged someone who gave freely. I was that someone. And they knew it. They thought that night in the hallway was the end of it. That their apology would reset the board. That I'd come back. They didn't understand that forgiveness isn't a time machine. It doesn't undo what was done. It just closes a door and keeps you from dragging the rot into the next room. The week after, things got strange. My sister sent a long email titled Starting Fresh, with bullet points. Literal bullet points. Talking about how we could rebuild communication, and suggesting we take a weekend trip, just her and me, to heal. Like she hadn't just spent the better part of a year bad-mouthing me to anyone with ears. My brother sent me one text, truce. That's all it said. No context. No follow-up. My mom started forwarding me listings again. Cabins, beach properties, random fixer-uppers with notes like, could be fun to build something new together someday. I didn't even open the links. They were pretending like the last year had just been a bad weather patch. Like the hurricane hadn't flattened half the house. Then came the letter. My dad in actual handwriting which I hadn't seen since childhood. It was carefully written, almost too careful. He said they didn't expect me to return, but the furnace at the vacation house had officially died. The space heaters weren't keeping up. Insurance wasn't covering what they thought it would. They were falling behind. He said they weren't asking for charity. Just help. A temporary loan. He promised they'd pay me back. That was the part that broke something loose in me. Because they already owed me more than money. Respect. Credit. Truth. All the things they had withheld until their lives began unraveling. And they thought a few sorries would make me forget the cost. They didn't know I was already in the final stage. The buyer I'd been speaking with, the one who didn't care about family complications, was still interested. Still waiting. I sent the final confirmation to my lawyer the next morning. Within a week, my share of the vacation home no longer belonged to me. The papers were signed. The wire transfer cleared. My name was off the deed. It was over. They found out the way people like them usually find out, by trying to make a move and realizing the board had changed. I got a call from my brother. He sounded exhausted. He said, "So you really sold it?" I didn't answer. He sighed, then said, "You really got the last word." He was wrong. That wasn't the last word. It was just the first time I chose myself completely. My mom left one final voicemail after that. This one I did listen to. She didn't cry this time. She didn't beg. She just sounded quiet. Tired. He said, "You were right. We thought forgiveness meant we'd get you back. But we didn't realize forgiveness doesn't mean we get to keep you." Then she said, "You gave more than any of us. And we gave you nothing but conditions. We're sorry. We're truly sorry. I just hope you're okay." I am. The house is still there, but I heard from someone they're trying to sell it now. Off market. Quietly. Not just because they can't afford it, but because no one wants to be there anymore. The place feels heavy, they said. Like something was lost in it and never came back. They were right. It was me. And they don't get that back.